Hello, I'm Dana Cowley, and you're watching Charter Local Edition. We're in Carson City, Nevada, and my guest is Assemblyman Ozzie Fumo. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for
appreciate
having
you
me.
being here.
Thank you.
And as I was looking at your website, it says that education is very important to you, job creation, and boosting the economy.
Yes.
So can you tell us what you've done so far this legislative session along those lines?
You know, first, as I was knocking on doors, that was probably the two biggest things we talked about in my constituents in my community was education and solar energy, and that was where we added with the job creation. So the two bills I have for education, I talked to a lot of teachers, and most of them were telling me a couple of things that, you know, the way they're evaluated was so unfair. Oh. Because a lot of them get evaluated based, there could be a history or music teacher, they're evaluated on a math and science standardized test. And so I looked at the websites of the stakeholders in that, the NSEA, CCEA, the unions that represent the teachers, and they both thought the evaluations were unfair. So we put a bill in to reduce the amount of standardized tests percentage that accounts for their evaluations at the end of the year, which would make it a more fair evaluation. Rather than testing just on a standardized test, which some teachers have nothing to do with, test them, but say a music teacher, test them how well the child has performed in the class for the year, base the teacher's evaluation on their performance with the students, not a test that they have nothing to do with.
Well, I think as parents, we've all seen some of our children who also were very smart children, who were very productive, who did not test well either. So that works on both ends, teacher and student.
That's exactly true.
It's not a true measure of everyone's value. Some
people get really, your children, you know, you get really, really nervous taking a test. You might not be so well on, say, the standardized test where you're punching A, B, C, D with the choices, but you can verbalize and maybe talk to the teacher. And yeah, some kids do so much better at different test-taking methods. That's a great point.
Oh. And then for creating jobs and sustaining our economy?
Yeah, you know, again, talking about the solar in Nevada and in Las Vegas, in my community especially, a lot of people had the solar panels on their houses.
Oh, and yes, so the tile roofs.
Oh, yeah, it was so good. I mean, so good while it was here, and while the jobs were here for, say, the Solar City and things like that. So I'm working with Assemblyman Chris Brooks on some bills that will help bring solar back, make it more cost-effective to put it on your houses and bring those jobs back to Nevada.
One thing you mentioned that you're working on right now that's moving forward is some jail bail reform. Yes. And I think it's interesting because I think everybody knows about bail,
yes,
but if you actually need it, you don't know enough about it.
That's it. You know, you're exactly right. You know the term bail, but until you really need, you know, a loved one gets in trouble or something happens, then you're, oh my gosh, what do I really do? And in Nevada, we have 3 different statutes that focus on bail. One is if it's a capital murder case, where a person may or may not be entitled to bail. It's a whole different standard there. One is if a judge is going to release someone on an own recognizance release and what those conditions would be. And so what we've done is codify it into one big flow chart for the judges to fall back on and follow rather than going to the 3 different places. And Justice Hardesty has been working for years on what he calls the risk assessment factors. And it's kind of similar to what they do in federal court. In federal court, there's no such thing as bail. You're either detained or you're released. If you're a danger to the community, you're going to be detained. If you're a flight risk, you're going to be detained. But otherwise, their fallback position is release. And so Nevada, we're kind of going to codify it that way as well. So the judges have this flow chart to go through. If a person, say, is a first-time offender and it's a nonviolent crime, they can actually get an administrative release. So if someone comes from California, they're up in Reno, they get drunk, maybe do something silly, get arrested, rather than waiting in custody, say, Friday night till Monday morning to see the judge, if it's a first-time offense, they can be administrative release, go home, and just come back for their court appearance.
Oh. And so you, of course, have a very unique tourism and entertainment industry, yes, in the state of Nevada. How does this new legislation tailor to serve the needs of the tourism industry?
And I think it would help with that as well, because the people that are coming here, say, for the weekend, or they're here for a week and they plan on coming back, most people, 95% of the people who do get arrested come back, no problem. You know, there's no warrants for arrest or anything like that.
You kind of just want to clean it up.
They want to clean it up. Most people, they're not evil.
Put it behind you. It was left in Las Vegas.
What happens in Vegas doesn't necessarily stay in Vegas all the time. And so when that does happen, you know, we have a very low rate of people that actually get warrants. Most people do want to clear it up. And like, I've been practicing criminal defense for 20 years, and you know, I've met only a handful of people that you'd say would consider truly evil. It's more mental health issues we have, and drug and alcohol problems. People make a mistake, and the drug and alcohol problems, they really do want to get off. It's an addiction, you know, whether it started with opioids or marijuana in school or something like that, and just they call the slippery slope, but most people do want to get off and cure their problem and come back to court and become productive members of society.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with what you're doing this session. I appreciate you. I'm Dana Cowley, and this is Assemblyman Ozzie Fumo. This is Charter Local Edition. Thanks for being with us.